passed by a herd of cows, and they looked like they were just chilling right there on the grass, chewing on the grass and just enjoying life, right? But in the mind of that cow, it's in the present moment and it's living its best life. It's just doing what it wants to do, which is just eat grass and bask in the sun, just chill, right? With all the other cows. They were kind of huddled up together. Almost they looked like they were having a conversation with each other. That's almost what it looked like. But not knowing that eventually in time, there's going to be a end where they're going to end up on somebody's plate, right? But then you look at that animal's enjoying its life. And it's conscious, it's aware, right? But the level of consciousness and awareness can only go so far. So you're a human, and everything's sort of very, very good for you, right? Everything's great. Now, the awareness or consciousness of that cow, nothing really ever ends. But where does the consciousness of that cow go, right? It just goes right back into the all of what we would call the collective consciousness, okay? Because the animals are part of the all that we see in reality, because you are part of the all, and the animals are nothing but extensions and versions and mirrors of you. But when you die, where does your consciousness go? No different than where the animal's consciousness may go if you haven't developed that awareness of self. See, the animals really don't exist. Nothing outside of you exists. The only thing that exists is you, and you collapse everything into existence whether you know it or not. You are creating just the way you think the God outside of you creates. This is how you create. But when you die and you haven't developed that self-awareness, you haven't developed yourself, then this is where the whole everlasting life comes in. Because if you do give yourself to God, the Christian God, you will experience everlasting life. And that's just going to be basically what we would call the wheel of reincarnation. So whenever you die, that's where you go back to the collective, the reincarnation wheel, right back to the beginning. And everlasting life is what you'll experience unless you break out of that. Because you see, you put death in a category that you don't want to experience. This is why you go to Christ, because you want to experience everlasting life. So you're polarized one way because you think this way is good and death is bad. You experience many deaths every day the moment you sleep, and sometimes you go about your day and it's so chaotic and hectic that you can't wait to get to bed. I'm like, man, I can't wait to get to bed. I just enjoy being in bed. You enjoy being relaxed. And what do you do when you do? You just unwind, right? You kick back and you vacate from this world. It's just like when you're in the reincarnation cycles of your job every day, what is the main thing you look for? Vacation, right? So you escape work and you don't want to think about work, not know anything about work, because you want to be enjoying your vacation. So you're enjoying life now. Now, awareness of self, right? Think about this though. What would all those things, whether it's good or bad, that you categorize as, be without you, without your awareness of them? And how would you know what one thing being good is if you don't have the bad to contrast it against, right? So the key is detachment. Is detachment for humanity overall. But once this happens, is not to live nihilistically, because if you are nihilistic or solipsism in any kind of way, is because you haven't truly discovered yourself. Your ego is convincing you to think that you're awake and conscious, but you're really not aware and conscious. You're just basically in the state where you think you're awake and conscious, because the ego wants to thrive and survive. So it'll make you believe anything you want just to make sure it stays in control, right? And this is why you still have that empty feeling. This is why you still hate humanity. This is why you still feel like empty, like you still feel like you need to find something for fulfillment. You need to be around others to find fulfillment. So the key is to actually have that self-awareness. When you have that self-awareness, energy flows where attention goes, right? Where do you think you're finding that fulfillment? In self, right? And when you have that fulfillment, you can have the experience and impact to experience and fulfill others, because others are nothing but mirrors of you. But you have to be satisfied and content with yourself first. Find out what your heart's true desire is, and sometimes it goes into you experiencing the darkest aspects of yourself. The things that you've hid in the closet since you were little. And I've said this in videos before, you are still a child. You're just doing things differently because your body changed. So you think you're something else when you're not. You're still that same child. All you did was just stop playing to do something that's a lot more boring, and that's what adults want to do. Just do repetitive shit and have this feeling of control over others. Like, they'll practice that on their children and whatnot. Like, oh yeah, I control you, so you have to listen to me and whatnot. All that kind of flash shit. And then you think you know better, so you want to indoctrinate your children into doing the things that you think are better for them. When in actuality, this is why man never knows themselves, because the child is supposed to be guided, right? And people are supposed to be guided. People aren't supposed to be controlled or manipulated into anything. This is why I always say, think for yourselves and do your own thing. You could listen to me about what I'm saying and do your own research and then experience for yourself, right? Everybody's experience, everybody's life is subjective experience. The only thing that's subjective is what your expression here is as, because your body's an instrument of the mind. The mind is God, basically. But even that is not even you. You're not even really the mind, because you can change your mind, can you? You can change your mind. If you got a fucked up mindset, well, I'm going to change my mind about it. Now I'm going to mindset my set to this. So basically you're creating with the mind, but where's the mind of God, right? When you look at the subconscious is taking your orders, right? So it's basically submissive to you, but you're not an aware man. You're not an aware thinking man. So your masculine energy is distorted, but you think you're a man. You think you're the man too, but that's just the ego making you feel like that so that it stays in control. Because if the ego is really in disguise, the feminine energy. That's why I said your body is the feminine energy, the feminine planet. All right, because collectively humanity is feminine energy. The individual man, the individual man that thinks for himself, the one walking the planet, and the one that stands out and not tries to fit in, is the true masculine energy. But he has to have a good grounded feminine energy. Now, why I say the body's the feminine energy, even though it's just the one individual that I'm talking about, well, look at it like this. What is your body made of? Trillions of cells, right? So you're nothing but cells. That's what your body consists of. I don't care if it's teeth, if it's hair, bone, eyes, doesn't matter. It's all cells. And two major fluids, blood and lymph. All right, blood and lymph. So when you look at the trillions of cells, collectively, it's humanity as a whole. And that's feminine energy. But when you're able to get yourself together, you know that you are projecting what you look at outside of you. And the reason why people are so broken apart and can't get it together is because they're looking for the answers outside of themselves, when outside of themselves is basically what you're trying to get together within yourself first. You are what you're looking at outside of you. So if you are that, then that means the answers are within you. Duh. The energy that comes from the lower root chakra, if you want to separate things into two, is the feminine energy. You raise and guide this energy up to the heavens. Okay, this is Christ consciousness. But you can only do this by having self-awareness and disconnect from the outside world. It's the only way that you could do this. You can't have the outside world as a tool to find your enlightenment. You can use it as a guide of some kind. I guess you can say tool and guide as some kind, but I mean, it's just there as yourself. That's all it is. But this is where true Christ consciousness comes into play. If you do unto others as you would want done unto you, it's because you truly see them as yourself. Not because you are afraid of going to hell or because you are afraid of some type of negative consequences. Some people are even afraid to get punched in the face. That's the reason why they don't do it, right? So look how many avenues of fear they go up against. You treat somebody a certain way because you're afraid to get punched in the face in return. When in actuality, you would love to fucking punch somebody in the face. But then you're afraid to get punched back. So you wouldn't want that back done onto you. So you're in fear. You don't want to go to jail so you don't break a crime, right? You don't want to hurt somebody because then you'll go to hell because you're afraid of hell. So everything's always revolved around fear. When in actuality, if you're at peace with yourself to begin with and face these aspects within yourself, the triggers outside of you, you'll recognize them within you first. You'll actually not hate the person outside of you as much because you know that you're actually placing them there as a version of you to teach you something. Anyway, we'll talk soon.